We finally did it. Multiplayer Gaming Podcast has a Patreon you can join right now. You can now get exclusive access to our Discord server and see behind the scenes as we talk about the games you know and love, as well as uncover those gems you haven't heard of yet. You can have the chance to game with Josh, Paul, and I, and get sweet custom shirts, games, stickers, and more. Just go to multiplayersquad.com to sign up for the Patreon. Hello, welcome to the Multiplayer Podcast. We are the super duper gaming podcast that's bringing you the deep dives and hard-hitting facts like we're real life journalists. Today, right now, you are listening to our special bonus round episode. Today's topic, we are covering movies to games and games to movies. As many of you know, I'm not recording this by myself. And today I am joined by my favorite people, the Donatello of the group, Paul.
Ooh, Donnie, I'll take it. The smart one has a way with machines. I like it.
He's got a way with machines.
And Splinter, the dirty rat himself.
Todd,
Josh.
You respect your elders and the sensei.
I mean, hairy, old, smelly, probably.
He probably is dirty and smelly. He lives in a sewer. But still, you show some respect, Todd.
You dirty rat. You killed my brother.
I'm glad that you said I was Splinter and not Shredder. That makes me feel good.
I have a little bit of respect for you.
All right.
Not much.
I mean, I kind of thought maybe you viewed me as like the evil guy, you know, but no, you kind of just view me as the hairy old man that's stinky and smelly. It's fine. Yeah,
you're the crazy old guy where you're like, is he dangerous? And you're like, nah, he's just goofy.
Yeah. That's pretty spot on.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Can't argue.
All right, guys. Movies to video games to movies. There's so much to cover. I just want to lay the groundwork here and say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did it best all the time. Like animated series, games, like arcade games, movies. You can't beat TMNT.
7-year-old Paul is completely in agreement, Todd. Now 36-year-old Paul might not agree with that quite so much.
Todd, you didn't bring up the Pac-Man cartoon series? Come on.
I'm gonna put TMNT above that.
Yeah, I would too, actually.
All right, so let's start with movie adaptations to video games. It all started 1993 with Super Mario Bros. Did you guys see this movie?
I did see it on VHS. I did not see this movie in theaters.
I don't think I've seen this movie. I've seen clips, and the main thing that stuck out is those dang Goombas. Oh,
the Goombas look so terrible, and they look nothing like the Goombas in Mario Brothers.
They look awesome. They look not all right, realistic, but they don't look animated or they don't look like special effects. But they made some bold choices with how they designed the Goombas, and they look freaky, but they look nothing like the game.
The Goombas are terrifying. I had no idea because I have not seen this movie. Somehow this escaped my childhood, thankfully. And then when you guys were like, wait, you don't know what the Goombas look like? And I was like, no. And then Paul shares a picture. Oh, and yeah. I'm going to have nightmares, man. Like, they're horrifying.
Yeah, the movie came out in 93, and I just took a look on IMDb. It has a 4.1, so this movie is an abomination. And my favorite part of this is that Mario and Luigi are supposed to be twins. And in this movie, they are portrayed by John Leguizamo, who is Hispanic, And his brother is played by Bob Hoskins, who I'm pretty sure is in his late 50s in this movie. And I'm pretty sure is Italian. So these guys are different ethnicities, and they're like 25 years apart in age. It's not laying good groundwork for movies based on video games moving forward. This was kind of messed up right from the beginning.
Can we trace all of the terrible, terrible video game movies back to this?
Probably.
Yeah, because there are a lot of bad ones, and this one kind of set the
for
stage.
Terrible video game movies. Like, honestly, it's...
Well, yeah, they win. If this can make money, anything can make money. All right. There was a movie made after Sonic. Do you think it was true to character, or was it a cash grab?
I think that they did a pretty darn good job. I remember do you guys remember all the crazy news where the fans hated the way Sonic looked in the beginning, and there was this huge backlash with how terrible he looked, and they had to scrap it and then basically go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, we got to make him look more like Sonic.
It wasn't overblown. The original Sonic was disturbing. He had teeth and beady eyes.
I was a Sega kid because I couldn't get a Nintendo. They were all sold out, and I wasn't willing to wait. So I had a Sega. So Sonic was that was my guy. Did not care about this Sonic movie when they were hyping it, and there was all this stuff, and I was just like, yeah, it's a video game movie. It's going to be terrible. It's Sonic. Okay. And then I watched it with my kids, and I thought it was legit, really good. I was pleasantly surprised by the movie. It's not going to win an Oscar. It's not groundbreakingly, phenomenal. But as far as enjoyable movies go, it was right up there. And I thought they did a very good job, showcasing Sonic's abilities and his speed and stuff like that.
We rented it as a family, and I got pretty bored. I actually walked away about 20 minutes into it, to be honest. It just wasn't really my cup of tea, but my kids loved it. I would say the only thing that seemed kind of missing, and maybe it's there later in the movie, it didn't seem to really have Sonic's attitude. Sonic always had a little bit of a furrowed brow, a little bit of a, twinkle in his eye. He was always kind of a little bit of a troublemaker, and I don't know if that was really in the movie.
Yeah, he was like a punk. That was Sega's whole thing, was we're edgy.
Yes.
And that just wasn't in the movies.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I mean,
minor
it's a kids
quibble.
movie.
Nobody's gonna fall in love with a punk Sonic. They had to make him cute and try to pull on the heartstrings and make you emotional and all that.
So make him more like Pikachu, is what you're saying? The far superior, iconic video game character?
Pikachu. All right, I mean, hey, we can talk about Detective Pikachu.
What was the better movie out of the two?
Oh, Detective Pikachu by far. Now, I have to go back to the confession booth, guys, because I caught so much slack.
Flack?
Flack, yeah, not slack. I wish people had cut me some slack. I caught so much flack on
Slack.
on my trashing Pokemon and Pikachu.
Oh, good.
In my effort to save Mario as the most iconic character in video games, which he genuinely deserves. But you two suckers made me go the route of having to trash Pikachu and trash Pokemon to get the outcome that I needed. And am I proud of it? I'm not. No, I'm not proud. Do I think that Pokemon is a video game? Yes, I do. And is Pikachu...
Thank goodness, finally.
Is Pikachu, super cute? Yes. Is he cuddly? Yes. Would I, have a Pikachu stuffed animal and sleep with him at night? No, but I still think he's really awesome. So I take it all back. I was just trying to...
Can you edit it so he says yes to that last one?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's would I do that? Yes.
I'm just so glad Josh is backtracking here, because I did say these were Josh's worst takes, that Pikachu's not the face of Pokemon, Pokemon is not a video game, then, it is a video game, but it's not an RPG. It was so funny. But in any case, Detective Pikachu, did hold my attention longer, although I did not finish that movie either. That one I watched about 40 minutes worth. But I am also a big Ryan Reynolds fan, so I did appreciate that one.
That was one of the best, like, video game to movie adaptations, in my opinion.
Well, the bar was very low.
Well, sure.
Like,
that doesn't take much.
Why do you think it's so hard? Like, Halo has been struggling with a TV show, movie, like some sort of adaptation, and hasn't quite landed right. Time after time, video games turning to movies that either flop or they never really make it out of the gate. Like, they make it out of the gate, like, not as a full, like, fledged movie, but like something where they're like, we just had to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why it's so difficult is that, first of all, when you play a video game, you spend a lot more time with the character, and you are actually using them as your avatar. So you get to know these characters well, you learn how they think, and then the stories become much more personal and interesting. It's very hard to try to compress that into such a short movie. So I think one of the reasons people loved, like, the Witcher Netflix series so much is that you get to spend, I don't know how many hours, 10 hours with Geralt, as opposed to trying to truncate it into 90 minutes. I think that's a lot harder.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but in a video game, you are controlling that character. You have the ability to make them do what you want to do. And when you're watching that character on screen, you have no control. So if you disagree in your mind with what's happening, you don't get to change that. You're just kind of along for the ride. And I think that causes like a severe disconnect a lot of times, unless the movie, like, that's why, again, I'll go back to Detective Pikachu, because I think the movie did a very good job of keeping you on board with Pikachu. You know, it was different enough from the video game. It wasn't trying to copy that exact, like, personality and things like that. So you could kind of have that detachment and still enjoy what you were watching.
I don't know. There's so many different things. Like, there's this whole concept of, like, if you show a gun in the first act of a movie, the gun needs to fire by the end of the movie. And that's just like an expectation the audience has. And I feel like there's all these underlying rules that movies have that video games don't have. So when you take a character such as Sonic or Master Chief or Mario, video games don't really, like, live in the, like, this character has a flaw that they need to overcome. It's more like destroy and kill the bad guys. Very straightforward, very fun to play. But when you bring that into a movie, I don't want to watch 90 minutes of, like, Superman with 0 hurdles just, like, doing mass genocide.
When did Superman commit mass genocide?
Well,
Isn't he a good
like,
guy?
I don't know. Batman v Superman, they destroyed all of Metropolis. That city got razed to the ground.
That was Batman's fault. Come on.
His history's written by the winners.
The victors, yeah.
And Superman always wins. So, of course, Superman's always the good guy. You never hear about the alien planet where they're like, we just wanted to say hi, and then Superman murdered all of us.
I think Todd is absolutely right. I think that video game characters don't lend themselves terribly well to growth and character development. And a lot of times in video games, you get that from side missions. And you're not going to have that in movies. You know, movies are so short, they have to stick to the main points. So for me, when I play games like The Witcher, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, a lot of how you get to know that character is through side missions. And of course, those are going to get tossed by the wayside.
Isn't there, like, I mean, what genre of there's so many genres of video games, but you're not turning a side scroller video game into a movie. You're probably not right. You're probably not turning a first person shooter into a movie because
I mean, they've done all of these
done it
things.
a lot. Yeah, they've done all of these.
What was the crazy one where it was only first-person view? I went to the movies and saw that. It was
Josh. I was with you. We saw it together. That was not based on a game. That was
No, I know it
called
wasn't. I'm just saying it was a
something
first-person
Harry.
movie.
Yeah, it was like
Well,
the entire movie was POV, and it was
I know
horrendous.
the answer, but I'm not going to say it because you guys didn't invite me to the movie.
Yeah, Josh and I went to that one with our friend Andy.
It was something.
It was called.
Henry?
It started with a D, like Disturbing Harry, or what was
Do
it?
you actually know it, Todd?
Come
Or
on,
are you
Todd.
Just teasing us.
No, I'm not saying
Todd
it.
doesn't know. He
I'm
doesn't
not
know.
saying it.
Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry. That was it.
There you go. All right.
Yes. Todd didn't know. Todd's like, oh yeah, I see.
It was
Todd
Dirty
know.
Harry.
Yeah. With Clint Eastwood.
But like, what video game genre would lend itself? Is it role playing game? I mean, Witcher was a role playing game. Warcraft, which was a movie.
Sure.
What's the I never saw the Warcraft movie. Was it good?
I did not see it either.
I didn't see it either.
Wait,
Paul, you're the biggest
I know. No, of course I didn't care. All right, look. I am a huge movie buff. I've joked about it before. I actually like movies more than video games, which might sound like heresy being that I'm, a co-host of a gaming podcast. Look, there are so few good movies based on video games. I just know they're going to be bad 99% of the time. That's just a matter of fact.
So let me get this straight. You like movies more than video games, and I'm guessing you like cooking more than video games.
I might. I might. Look, I love video games. It doesn't have anything to say about that, but I do really love movies. So I'm very excited about this podcast. I feel like this is my big chance to talk about movies. I love it.
I thought Warcraft looked pretty good. I have not seen it, but I actually had plans to go see it, and then I just got busy and then never remembered to go watch it. It's probably on Netflix now, right? Yeah, I thought Paul would have at least watched that just to say I want to see the World of Warcraft movie.
But see, as much as I loved World of Warcraft, I never cared about the story. So that didn't really pull me in.
I don't understand you. You love movies for the stories.
Yeah.
You hate video games for the stories.
Sometimes
it doesn't
Todd,
make sense.
Sometimes it works out that way.
Doesn't make sense.
Oh goodness.
Now, if they made a Mass Effect movie, would you be in, Paul?
Josh, at least once a year, I just watch the Mass Effect games, all the cutscenes put together, because it's such a good story. Yeah, absolutely. Same with Dragon Age. I go through and I'll just watch those stories because they are so good. They're very long. Those are 2.5 hour YouTube videos.
Total cutscenes
I do watch
put together.
Yeah.
Wow. Today I learned something about Paul.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to hijack this part of the podcast too much, but can I talk a little bit about why I expect video game movies to be so bad?
Yeah.
Because they have a reputation for a reason. Now, I don't know if you... Yeah, I don't know if you guys got around to this or not, but I did send you both a link to the Wikipedia page for Uwe Boll. By any chance, did either of you get to take a look at that, or do you know anything about this film director?
No.
Nothing?
Other than his name's kind of cool.
Okay, so he's a German filmmaker. He's now retired, all right? Now he just runs restaurants. But this dude made he runs restaurants. He got chased out of the movie business, all right? He's famous for making the worst movies ever. This dude won a Razzie Award for a Worst Lifetime Achievement Award. All right, this guy made such bad movies, but he made House of the Dead, Blood Rain, Postal, In the Name of the King, the Far Cry movie, Rampage, Alone in the Dark. All of these movies are horrendous. They are all terrible. And if you look all of them up on IMDb, they all get trashed. Now, critics hated this guy so much that he challenged them to a boxing match that was turned into a documentary called Raging Bull, which don't tell me that's not hilarious.
That's amazing.
The dude boxed 5 critics, beat the crap out of all 5 of them.
Oh,
the critics actually boxed him?
Yes. They didn't know he was an amateur boxer. So they all get in the ring and he pummels the crap out of them. This is not a joke. You can go watch this on YouTube.
What is the documentary?
It is up there. Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. All right.
Raging Bull.
I'm in.
All right. You can go look it up.
Man.
This dude is so full of himself. He started a petition at Petition Online and said, oh yeah, I'm going to get 1 million signatures because someone, as a joke, created one that said if we could get 1 million signatures, he'll retire from movies because he's so bad. And he said, no, I'm going to put up a pro Uwe Boll one and I'll get 1 million signatures. And he got 7,631. So people do not like Uwe Boll.
That's more than we have.
It's more than we have.
I have way less signatures than that.
But this dude has made like 10 to 15 movies based on video games, and he's just given them such a bad name. Like, those are all so incredibly bad.
I want to shake his hand just for challenging movie critics to a boxing
That's the greatest thing I've heard.
And then just beating the crap out.
It's so funny.
He's wanted to do that from the first movie he released that got bad ratings, and he's been holding on to that rage for every movie, and then they accepted his offer, and, you know, he came out on top.
The dude's hysterical. Just go watch interviews. He'll also troll people. Like, he claimed that the movie Postal was gonna gross more than Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So like he'll also like goof like that in the press, but yeah, he makes such bad movies. He's very well known as being the worst movie director in a lot of circles.
I'm conflicted because like I like this guy for being a troll and for like what he did, you know, challenging the critics and stuff, but then it's like he makes terrible video game movies. And I love video games and I love movies. And then this guy just ruins that combo. So it's kind of like, yeah, you know.
Oh, it's so funny.
Can you guys think of any positive video game movies?
I can think of a couple.
I got a couple. Yeah. A couple.
All right. What do you have?
I do have one that I actually really enjoy.
I have mine.
Yeah, I got a couple also. What? You only have one, Josh?
Well, I mean, that jumps out to me. And it's, Mortal Kombat.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yes. Now, I will say... Mortal Kombat! It was like a techno-y Mortal Kombat song. Do you guys remember when we were talking about like soundtracks and stuff like that and going to the music stores and buying the cassette tapes for soundtracks? I bought that soundtrack on cassette tape.
Of course, so did I.
Absolutely.
And then I'll never forget, I was in high school, I had a big party at my house, and I put it on just as loud as I could, and everybody in my living room was like dancing around to Mortal Kombat. It was great.
Dude, Mortal Kombat, the first one, is not a great movie, but it is pretty good. It is not bad. It's highly watchable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Todd disagrees.
I don't know. It's got a special place in my heart for just the time and the soundtrack and all that stuff. So
now, it should be said that Mortal Kombat Annihilation is horrendous and does not deserve to be spoken of at all except to trash it.
Yes.
But it does have the immortal line. I forget the characters' names. I think it was Katana and her mom Shiva. You guys have, I'm sure, seen the meme. You know, Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die. And that's like the way the dialogue is delivered in Annihilation.
Oh, no.
And it's so bad. But the first one is classic. I'm with Josh. I like it.
All right. Are you ready? I think Paul's going to be blank on this, but Josh is going to agree. Silent Hill.
Was that a movie?
They made a movie.
I did not see the movie.
They made a fantastic movie.
Is it scary?
It is terrifying.
How do I not know about this?
It's the dad going into the fog, and the I got introduced to Silent Hill from the movie, and then I was like, oh, this is a video game? And then I was like, oh, the video game is just as terrifying. I'm out.
Ooh. It has Sean Bean. Does he get murdered?
Does he die
brutally in this movie?
He's gotta die. He dies in every movie.
He's gotta die.
But it's a great movie based off of the video game. Another one kind of along the same vein, Resident Evil.
Oh, Todd.
What?
Love it.
All right. Right.
And you know what? The same guy who directed Mortal Kombat directed Resident Evil, Paul W.S. Anderson. Okay, not the famous Paul Thomas Anderson, who's the far more prestigious director. Resident Evil's good. I ride for Resident Evil.
I've not seen that one either. How have I got some work to do, man.
Do you know how many Resident Evil movies there are?
20.
That's a good guess. It feels like 20. It's 6.
Like 5?
6.
Oh, yeah.
Are you talking the new
6?
ones though? Because I do remember the new ones that came out within like the last 7 years or so. Are those the ones you're talking about?
Just you can't say new ones and then say almost a decade.
Well, I'm talking because if you think about when Resident Evil actually came out, it was a long time ago.
Fair.
So I don't know if you're talking about movies that were made back then or like
same chain, buddy. They all have Mila Jovovich.
Oh my! Well, all right. She's pretty cool.
She is a national treasure.
Yeah, she.
I'll just say that
multipass.
I saw The Fifth Element in my teenagehood, and yeah,
yes,
she has a special place in my heart.
I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you, man.
Oh, all right. I do want to say, Josh, we're going into Halloween. We're going into fall. We're going into scary movie season. Watch Silent Hill. Watch the Resident Evil movies. Like, Silent Hill is such a great scary movie.
I loved the game, so if there's a movie that's even halfway decent, I'll definitely check that out.
You know, Resident Evil, before we move on to the next one of the most famous scenes, maybe you've seen, Josh, Todd, maybe it sticks out to you, but do you remember the scene when the one character gets stuck in the chamber and all the lasers shoot through from the one side of the chamber to the other? And so it's like one line in the middle and the guy ducks, and then it's like one at the bottom and it's moving across so he jumps over, and then it turns into a giant lattice, and then it just slices the guy into like 50 pieces.
Oh.
And it's such a funny scene because I was always like, who programmed this laser system to like troll with the guy who's inside this tunnel? It could have just immediately, gone straight to the giant cross hatch and just killed the guy.
That's too funny.
And I will say, the same director and Mila Jovovich, who by the way is his wife, so they make all these movies together, they're coming out with a Monster Hunter movie that comes out next year.
Ooh.
So that one might be worth checking out.
That could actually be pretty cool.
All right, so what are some elements that make a good movie based on a video game?
I think one of the things that really helped the Resident Evil movie, at least the first one, is that none of the characters have anything to do with any of the games. It's just set in that world, right?
Yeah.
But like that's kind of a good thing, because if you try to put Sonic or Mario or any of these main characters on the screen, I don't know. I feel like everyone already feels like they already know them so well that anything's going to be a little bit of a letdown. So they were just like, let's just have a brand new character, Alice. It's just set in Raccoon City. We'll have the same, I forget the name of the evil Umbrella Corporation. And I felt like that was a really good idea. Like, let's just set it in this world. It'll still be a horror movie because these are horror games, and it's based in the same world, but it's a brand new story. And I think that's really smart. I think the ones that try to follow the storylines to a T, those are a lot tougher. I like when they take a little more creative license, personally.
Yeah. I think you need a mega, like, I'm going to go back to The Witcher, right? I mean, you guys know I love the game, but it was a very successful video game to series adaptation there. And I think one of the reasons being is that when you have when you have that world that you can dive into, and then you can pull out some of the conflict, some of the storylines, some of the characters. Like you said, you don't need to necessarily be 100% in how you reenact that. But I think that's what's going to draw people in. It's almost like Game of Thrones, right? Like if you think about it's the world of Westeros and all of the characters involved there and the conflict between them, that's what made people love that show. And so I think you almost need that really grand kind of scale. You know, like Dragon Age would be one. I mean, I joke about Mass Effect, but that could legitimately make a very good movie or series of movies if they did it right. But the failing there is you can't, like you said, you can't concentrate on trying to replicate everything exactly because it's just impossible to do.
I want to go on a little bit of a rant. Why is there not a good Fallout movie? I feel like that is the perfect setting where you could do, like, it's like Star Wars. Like, you could do side plots, you could do main plots, you could focus on vaults. You have an unlimited number of vaults and scenarios and situations and main, like, it just sets itself up to be an amazing show, movie, whatever. How, like, Netflix, Hulu, whoever's listening, make a stinking Fallout series.
Well, and if you wanted to do New Vegas, I know Matthew Perry's available. That dude can't be that busy. All right, call his agent up. Matthew Perry is willing to take that role back in New Vegas. I'm with you, Todd. It has great source material. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to money. Some of these bigger video game movies like World of Warcraft, I don't know offhand what it cost. It probably cost $120 million to make, and then you've got $100 million in marketing, and the likelihood they get the money back, I guess, is just so low. But I feel like if you had the right director and the right people attached to it, if they were really passionate about it, there's so much good source material. It could be a great movie or a great franchise if the right people did it.
I love just about anything that's like post-apocalyptic too. Like that just grabs my attention right away. The only thing with Fallout was, I mean, isn't it kind of like a silent protagonist though? I mean, I know you interact with people, but I mean, you're kind of faceless.
Yeah, I mean, you can design your character however you want, Josh.
Right. I just mean in the actual game itself. But yeah, I mean, there could definitely be some good storylines there.
Yeah, I mean, there's great storylines in all of the games. And I feel like they could either kind of play off one of the existing games or just go out like, oh, this is Shelter 187 and it's in Wisconsin or whatever the heck they want. And then like play a movie off where this shelter opens up in Wisconsin and now all the buffalo are zombies or mutants or whatever. And now they're living in the wild. Like, I feel like there's unlimited amount of content they could do with that.
Dude, they could do Fallout 76.
Ugh. Straight to video release.
Oh, man, that was the first movie that was actually buggy while watching it.
Just frames skipped over, audio cuts out.
Yeah.
Actors forget their lines.
I'm forgetting the movie and video game. It was where Soviets invade the US. It was like Red Dawn?
Yeah, I think it was Red Dawn. That sounds right.
That was a semi-successful movie. Like it did okay. It was watchable.
Or is it Wolfenstein? That was.
Oh
movie,
yeah. Yeah.
Was that a movie?
But I think it's all the same premise.
Yeah.
I think Red Dawn is its own video game, I believe. Please no one correct me if that's wrong. But like I feel like that's the same concept that Fallout could be, where it's like it's this like you put the US in a situation where like the Nazis win, they invade the US, and like that was a good movie because it had good material to go off of. I feel like Fallout 4 could be the same exact way, where it's like the US gets nuked, we're in post-apocalyptic, everyone comes out of these vaults to like mayhem, and there's an unlimited number of stories you can tell. All right, let's switch gears and go movies to video games. I want to call out the biggest dud, the one that has been told to almost kill the video game industry by itself. E.T.
E.T. All right, you guys are going to say I'm old again, but I remember playing that game.
You're old.
I had that game on my Atari. Do you remember the story I told way back when about how my dad we had like hundreds and hundreds of Atari games because my dad would burn the proms. And then
he would go to prom and pirated all those.
Yeah. So I remember playing E.T. and that game sucked, man. So they covered it on the Netflix show High Score, but I lived that. I lived that in person, and that game was terrible.
Did you get that for Christmas the year it came out?
We got the Atari, but like I said, my dad just brought home games all the time because I don't know where he got them from. I didn't ask some,
That's what I want to know is where did he burn all these games from?
So where he worked, there was a guy that had access to these games, and then they would break open the cartridges, take the chip out of the cartridges, which is the PROM, and then they had a PROM burner, which I think they used for the business that he worked at, because they had a lot of high-tech machinery and stuff there. And so I think they used the PROM burner to copy the PROMs, and then my dad would bring it home. And I remember we had a little circuit board that we would plug into the Atari. It's the bottom part of the cartridge. So we would plug that thing in and pray that we didn't break it. And then you just lifted a little lever, you plopped the PROM in there, you closed the lever, and there was your game. And then if you wanted to play a different game, you just lifted the lever, you took out that PROM, you put in a different PROM, and boom. So we had hundreds and hundreds of Atari games.
What's your dad's name and address?
Yeah, I'm not telling that.
No reason.
I don't know what the statute of limitations is on PROM theft.
That's every kid's dream.
Oh, it was
I'm going to
awesome.
just go out there and say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But E.T. was terrible. The movie was great. I tried to get my kids to watch E.T. and they won't because it's like it just looks all grainy, and they refuse to watch anything that looks old.
It's a little slow in the beginning, to be fair. I think if you try to watch it now, it's a little tougher for today's generation.
Yeah.
There's also some questionable language, too, like kind of surprisingly
in
for a
E.T.?
PG movie. Yeah. The things that they call Elliot.
E.T. was the first movie that I bawled at. I remember being inconsolable when E.T. was like in the ditch, almost dead. Spoiler alert. And like just crying my eyes out, man.
If you want a really good YouTube watch, go watch the audition tape of the actor who plays Elliot. It's an incredible audition. You should go watch it. It'll make you cry. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
It's a very good audition. Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things that pops up on Reddit every like 3 to 5 years, where it's like, oh, this guy's audition tape. And then it's like, oh, wow. Like, he's a pretty good child actor.
Yeah, very, very good. But the game, horrendous.
What other games do you think were a terrible, terrible adaptation from the movie?
All of them.
No, I can think of some really
almost
good ones.
all of them.
I can think of some really good ones. I'm trying to think of movies to video games that were really bad.
I'm gonna throw out a really bad one.
Okay.
There apparently was Shrek video games. I'm just gonna say that was a bad premise and bad execution all around. They should avoid that.
Like, we were joking before we started the show, but there was a while there where everybody was making a video game. It was like, we were joking around that if you bought a box of cereal, it would be like, video game inside the box for whatever movie was coming out lately. And
I mean, that literally happened.
yes, and they were just terrible. I mean, I don't know who can crank these things out that fast. I mean, obviously they're not putting a lot into them either. I imagine there are just thousands and thousands of them. I can't think of any like huge, like really, really popular movies that were turned into video games that were just flops. At least lately. I feel like people got smart. They quit doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I was going to say, I can think of some really good ones, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, what do you have for good ones?
Oh, one I bet you guys are not thinking of. Now, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but Star Wars Fallen Order was a phenomenal game. Jedi Fallen Order was great. And it was, there's been some good Star Wars games out there, but to me, this is one of the best of the bunch.
I mean, Battlefield is like the obvious Star Wars one, but
I don't like Battlefield, though. It's too shallow.
Really?
It's too shallow. Like, I've played it, but it's just, I need a little bit more.
I feel like Star Wars games have an uphill battle because of VA. Like,
maybe. I mean, but then in that vein, I mean, you have KOTOR, which was great. That was a great series. I mean, that's not technically based on a specific movie, but then again, neither is like Fallen Order.
And that's probably part of what makes it so likable is that it's a new story. You know, people love the world. Give me more of this world. Give me a new character at an interesting time. And I think that's why people were really drawn to Fallen Order.
You know, it was a really great video game flop. Star Wars Sims.
There was a
They recently, like past week or so, are adding Star Wars content to The Sims 4.
I saw that. It's Baku, isn't it? Isn't it Sims Baku or something like that?
Yeah, and people who play The Sims are just like, who asked for this? None of us. No one in the Sims community asked for this game. And then EA's like, we own the license. It's fine. Everyone's excited.
It's just skins at that point, isn't it? Unless you're trying to work your way up to be like a Grand Moff or something.
Yeah. Grandmaster Jedi. You got to go in, clock that 9 to 5.
Can you go work in a Star Destroyer? Like work your way from janitor to weapons specialist or something?
You can gain your flight skills and try and make the... Dang it, I knew I shouldn't have gone for this. What's the Han Solo thing?
The Millennium Falcon?
No, the run he made.
Oh, the Kessel Run. The
Kessel Run in 6 parsecs or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know the language.
I would have been really impressed if you got that right, Todd.
I'm enough of a Star Wars fan to know that that's a thing, but not actually what the thing is. And that's the line I sit on with Star Wars.
Now, I did say there was a few, because there's the Avengers. Now, I'm a huge Avengers and Marvel fan, and they just released the game, the Avengers game, but I have very little interest in that game, and the reviews are kind of confirming that too. Basically, the Avengers game is Anthem, super fun for the first 4 hours, and then it just dies after that.
Which makes sense. You're going to play the heroes you love. You're going to be in their shoes, do their abilities, and then you're going to run out of new things to do and get bored.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And I know Todd and I have talked about this a little bit too. It's just not terribly interesting to me to play characters that are essentially invulnerable. You know, a lot of these games based on comic books or off of big action movies, you're kind of just an unstoppable force, killing thousands of mobs, and you never really feel in danger. So I'm not surprised. I feel like that's the kind of game you would grow sick of rather quickly.
But I want to open up the Spider-Man video games for PlayStation. Those are some great video games that, they have a long history of just cranking out good Spider-Man video games.
Because nothing beats swinging down the streets of New York, right?
But even running around, I mean, yeah. First off, yes, you're 100% correct. But then, being in a game and then being able to, pull down a wall with a web or, just manipulate the environment, especially in, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 environments, being able to do those things felt so dang cool. And I don't remember another video game that really matched the early Spider-Man video games.
If you can nail the movement with Spider-Man, in the video game, if you, his agility and, like you said, the, swinging through the city, that's what matters in that. I never played the one for PS4. It got really, really good reviews, but that was, I was just 100% PC gaming, and my PlayStation was just collecting dust because there wasn't anything out that would pull me away. But that game was very highly regarded. You
It's
know,
a lot
it
of
got
fun.
really good reviews. I mean, I didn't know you played it, Paul, but we have another friend that really enjoyed it, and I heard great things about it. I've just never personally played it, but they look like they nailed it for that game.
Yeah, and I'll definitely buy a PS5 when it releases, and there will be a new Spider-Man game for that. So I'm looking forward to it. 4K, 60 frames per second,
I'll
Spider-Man, I'll
play
take
that
it.
one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Now, another really good video game based on a movie, we all have to agree the best one of all time is Goldeneye, right?
Yes, hands down.
Yeah.
Goldeneye is basically scene for scene the Goldeneye movie.
Yeah.
And it was amazing every second. And that was the game that introduced like multiplayer deathmatch to so many people.
Racing for that golden gun, get that one-shot kill.
Yeah.
Racing to pick Ob Job.
Yep, racing to pick Odd Job.
That's the real race. And that game, they have full documentaries on just that game, and like the AI in that game and how they made it different on like very limited capabilities of the N64 for AI in that game. And I don't know, they did so many things right. And I don't know, a game with proximity mines that you can just throw all over your friends. What's to lose?
I loved the prox mines. What's funny is that was my introduction to James Bond. I had never seen a James Bond movie.
Really?
My parents were pretty restrictive on movie content, so even like when the Mortal Kombat movie came out, I wasn't allowed to watch it, even though I think I was 13 or 14 at the time. And so for me, I had played Goldeneye, the campaign, several times, and then a couple years later, I ended up renting the Pierce Brosnan movie, Goldeneye, with Sean Bean. Spoiler alert, he dies. And that entire movie is just based on the game. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. You know, here I kind of experienced it the other way around. But yeah, GoldenEye is definitely, I think, the top game based on a movie. And that one's very much based on a movie.
Little known fact, there was a James Bond Moonraker for the Atari.
Nice. Which Bond was that? Was that Timothy Dalton?
I think that was Sean Connery.
Sean
then.
Connery.
Yeah.
And Josh, back in 1973, how was that game?
I don't know because I wasn't born yet, Todd. But it was good.
Guessed.
I remember thinking it was kind of hard though, which all Atari games were hard. But I remember it didn't grab my attention a whole lot for whatever reason. Probably because I didn't know who James Bond was really.
Yeah, that's fair. In my notes, I have two great games. I'm gonna just pair them: Aladdin and Lion King
for the Sega. Or I guess they were on
Sega.
Super Nintendo too, right? I think they were on both.
I played them on Sega, and those were such fun games. Also, like very true to the movie, but you were like playing out scenes. Like my favorite was in Lion King. Playing the like, I just can't wait to be king. You're jumping on giraffe heads, except it's like a puzzle because they all put their heads up and then you slide off their backs, and then like you're trying to figure all this out, and then you get to this part where you get to the monkeys, and if you hit, it's like a puzzle where like if you hit left, then like it goes left, and then monkeys throw you around until you hit like a stopping point. And that, like, as a young kid, that game was equally like, this is my favorite like Disney movie, and also I'm very, very frustrated right now, and trying to reconcile those two things was very hard.
Weren't they like platformers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I remember the Lion King had one level in particular with the Stampede where I remember that level being infuriating because Simba is running toward you. So it's kind of like Crash Bandicoot. Like you can't see what's coming, and you've got the Stampede behind you, but then rocks would be in front that you couldn't see. And I remember that being a hard game, or at least for those of us who were kids at the time. I mean, maybe not for Josh being in his 30s.
All
back
those
in the
games
90s,
were
but they were tough, man.
Yeah, and I mean, especially a game made for kids. All right. Last thing I have, because we're running out of time. I want to call out the Lego movies. There's been a stinking Lego, or not Lego movie, a Lego video games. There's been a stinking Lego video game for every major movie in the past 5 years, 10 years. Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, Avengers.
All they do is just reskin them. You don't have to do anything else. Just reskin it, reskin the levels, and boom, you just spit out another one.
And then that comes to the question, are all games based on movies just a cash grab?
Yes. in a word.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. You know, it's easy, right? You've got a successful movie, just slap the name on it, like E.T. Who cares if the game's a piece of garbage? You know, just throw the title on there and hope you sell 1 million copies. I mean, I understand why, but yeah, most of them are cash grabs, for sure.
Now, there is one movie that is not, it's a video game movie, but it is not about a specific video game.
What's that?
Ready Player One.
I thought you were going to say Wreck-It Ralph, for sure. But yeah, Ready Player One.
Okay, there's 2 movies where it's not based on a particular...
Yeah, you can look at Tron or, there's tons of... Wasn't The Wizard, wasn't that based on video games with Macaulay Culkin?
That was with Fred Savage?
Or Fred Savage, yeah,
I
there you go.
remember
Fred
that,
Savage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you know about that movie, Paul.
Yeah.
Ready Player One is great, though. What a tribute to video gamers and just gaming in general. If you have not, I mean, Steven Spielberg directed it. Come on.
It was a great movie.
It really
I'll give
was.
you that.
Yeah.
We're ending this episode pretty soon. I feel like there's just so many things I want to talk about. Like, I just remembered all of the Lord of the Rings video games that we didn't even mention.
I have it on my list.
They are fantastic video games, both RTS and role-playing, first-person. Like, there's so many good video games just around Lord of the Rings that, like, I don't know, we can't get to all of it.
Yeah, Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, those games are super fun.
Well, and going a little more old school, the games based on the Two Towers and Return of the King were infinitely fun. You could play as the main characters, and they had skill trees, and you would unlock newer abilities. I remember as Aragorn, I would summon the army of the dead, and they would all fight with you, and, you know, those games were really fun. They also had scenes from the movies as well, and so that was kind of a neat thing that they would tie in there.
Lord of the Rings Online, Latro.
Latro,
that was a great
yeah.
MMO. I played that one a pretty good bit. See, there and again, have a world, have a crazy huge world with good conflict in characters, and then you can make a successful movie out of the video game, or vice versa.
Yeah. I think the secret sauce that we discovered here is, more times than not, don't make it the same plot. Like, explore other spaces in that world. You don't want to do the same movie twice. You don't want to do the same video game twice. You want to explore, like, other spaces, maybe with the same characters, but definitely, like, inside of that, like, world that they create.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, I do have one question for you guys. When's the Tetris movie coming out?
I was
Is that
terrible
really
at
a
Tetris.
thing?
You guys know about this, right? Like, there really is
No.
a trilogy of movies
What?
coming out
What?
about Tetris.
No.
Yeah, you guys don't know this? I am not joking. I am
100%
serious. They're planning to make a trilogy.
Are the shapes going to have little googly eyes, and then each shape has its own personality? And then they have to save the world, so they all have to come together. You know,
No.
and then form a block. We're gonna form a block, guys. And then
it will not have.
Then they all just
moving
disappear
pieces.
because, you know, when you get 5 rows, you get a Tetris, and then they all clear out.
Yeah, they really are making the movies. It's not actually about the blocks. It's more about the story about the creation of Tetris. But that was the running joke in the beginning is, are you being serious? Haven't we already done enough movies based on games? Are we really going to do Tetris now? Come on.
I was about to say, like, all right, a documentary definitely makes sense, but yeah, like, what are you gonna, like, just whole neighborhoods disappear if too many people, like, line up on the street? Like, how are you gonna do a movie based on that?
Yep. Well, you can watch for the Tetris movies coming later.
Jeez. All right. Any last thoughts before we end this episode?
If you are listening to this podcast right now,
I am.
Go leave us a review, please.
Where?
On Apple Podcasts primarily, or on your podcasting app.
But you went from like secret sexy Josh to like informative, robot.
I did. I just wanted to grab their attention. I felt like they'd be like, if they were listening and kind of tuning out, all of a sudden they're going to be like, "Hello,
who's this sexy robot talking to me?"
In a land far away, we would like your reviews.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that definitely helps out this podcast is if you go and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, it helps us on Apple Podcasts so other people can discover this podcast. And that's just super helpful for us, for people discovering us. And then, I don't know, we like reading the reviews.
We really do. I do. Anytime we get a new review, we always post it like in our channel, and we all like, yeah, we got a new review. So
there's one about Josh being their favorite, but I said, Josh, you absolutely cannot read this review.
I know you guys wouldn't let me read
You're vain enough.
I was gonna sneak it in anyway, but then
that review was left by my mom. Yaya, Arizona. Josh is my favorite.
That would be funny. No, seriously though, please take the time. It takes no time at all to just click the podcast in your app, write a review, 5 stars, super duper helpful.
Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, make sure you go into your podcasting app and subscribe to get fresh content twice a week. If you're interested in finding out more information about us, you can find us on our website, multiplayerpodcast.com, Patreon, multiplayersquad.com, Twitch TV, Multiplayer Pod, Twitter, Multiplayer Pod, and Paul, what's that sweet Instagram?
I believe it's Multiplayer Podcast.
Multiplayer Podcast.
Could you tell we got lazy? We made our Instagram, and then it was like Multiplayer Podcast, and then we kind of went, we'll just shorten the rest of these.
Too many letters.
Yeah. Who needs cast in there?
Yeah.
We did it for the listeners. We really did it for you guys so that you didn't have to type out cast.
We're saving you so much time.
All right. See you guys next week.
See ya. I have to go back to the confession booth. Is Pikachu like super cute? Yes. Is he cuddly? Yes. Like, would I have a Pikachu stuffed animal and sleep with him at night? Yes. That makes me feel good.